it was the first time I'd been a part of something where me being of an Asian background had a lot of influence in what the story was and how we approached certain things. I was a big Jackie Chan fan. The way he like, obviously, when you keep watching his action films and obviously the choreography of the fighting with the camera and how it blocked and how they captured the movement and when they cut, I kind of like started paying attention to that. When we're filming, like we're shooting in on the ocean or we're shooting full sun or rain. Before we shot the big battle scene on Big Island, the day that we flew in to shoot that scene, a volcano went off on the island.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Kingdom of Dreams podcast, The Making of Stories. I'm your host, Jawad Mir. My sincere apologies for not being around for almost a month. Unexpected plans came up for which I had to travel and just didn't get around to doing any episodes. In fact, I had another episode that we had already filmed about 3 weeks ago that I never got a chance to put it up. So today we're going to start off with that, with regular episodes every other day, plus some live functionality that we will be implementing on YouTube only, maybe on Instagram as well, and then that will later be uploaded on Apple and Spotify. But having said all that, today my guest is Matthew Cheung, who is a cinematographer for Apple TV Plus new series Chief of War. Keep in mind, we did this episode when the first episode came out about a couple of weeks ago. I think the show is on the episode 5 and 6 now. It was a great conversation. We talked about episode 1. He touched upon a little bit on episode 10 without giving any spoilers, and a lot of technicalities and the lighting, and also his personal stories and how he got into cinematography. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Matthew Chung, cinematographer for Apple TV show Chief of War. I would love to know how you got on to this project
Hmm.
first, and then we'll dive into your past work and obviously the series itself.
Yeah, yep. So Justin Chon, who directed the first two episodes, I did a film with him before called Blue Bayou. And yeah, he was in talks to possibly direct this, and he wanted me to shoot it. And it took him quite a few months to get me on to convince the powers that be to meet with me. This is my first TV show, but I had worked with Justin before, and obviously we had a really great relationship on that. I did a film called You Won't Be Alone with Goran Slavleski directing. It went to Sundance.
Mm,
A film about witches in 1800s Macedonia. So it was kind of roughly similar kind of time period, but I shot a lot of that quite uh naturalistically uh in sun and obviously firelight. So we knew that was kind of roughly the similar, quite a similar uh visual aesthetic that Justin was going for. So he used that, and then that had just been released in Sundance and was uh, had a little bit of had really great reviews. So he could use that to convince people to that I was suited to do this film,
sure,
series.
sure. Fair enough. One of the things I really appreciated about this, and I'm seeing this now a little more than usual. There was a long period of time when everything that was coming on streaming, even films in theaters, the color desaturation, kind of like a David
Yeah.
Fincher style, has been
Yeah.
there for ages. And I have been talking like how I'm so tired of it. Like if I see something like that now, like I don't want to,
Yeah.
I
Right.
can't. It's very hard to get into. But this was completely opposite. Which I really appreciated. Not and it should be because I mean that's what the film look is supposed to be about. Obviously, you can do it in post as much as you want. But that was really really pleasant to see.
Oh, thank you, man. Like, this is the first time something of this scale has been done about Hawaiian history, Hawaiian culture. And, Hawaii is obviously quite a stunning place, but also, the wardrobe, the designs of, the capes and the feathers, and obviously the greens and the forest and the blues and the water and the sky. And, we wanted to have it feel very real and natural. And, to showcase Hawaii in a way that, like I said, it's the first time it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii shot for really Hawaii and Hawaiian culture. So, we really wanted to stay true to that and really kind of showcase the beauty of it. Yeah, and then that means, yeah, we didn't want to push too much of a look on it. Um, yeah, so that's kind of where we kind of came from it.
Right, right. And in terms of, I'll talk about the very first sequence. And first of all, you did the first two episodes only, or you did more than that?
No, I did first two episodes, episode 5, 8, and 9, the finale. 5 and 8 were directed by Brian Mendoza, and the last episode is directed by Jason Momoa.
Oh,
So 5 and 3 and 4, I ended up shooting like half those episodes as well, as co-director on. Yeah, so we started in Hawaii. We started with 1 and 2. Then we end up shooting bits of 5 and 8, and also the big finale battle scene in Hawaii before we shifted to New Zealand.
so 99% of it's shot in Hawaii, the islands of Hawaii,
Mm,
or more or less.
no, I think less. Maybe like 70-30 or
Okay, fair enough.
yeah, we had to shift. So, the show is pretty big, but Hawaii, unfortunately, the tax incentives aren't that great. The crew incredible, and obviously the location is incredible, but we needed to go to somewhere like New Zealand where there's a tax incentive for
Mm.
filming, and they also have the resources to be able to build sets and stuff like that and add stages. And yeah, so we had to go there to just get the whole series within the budget that we had.
Awesome. So going back to the opening sequence in the film, the shark hunt, if you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
call it,
Yep.
walk me through that. I mean, when I was watching it, I was just kind of thinking in my head, about 50 years ago, a film called Jaws was made, and it had its own problems with the water and shark and the
Water, yeah,
chemical.
yep.
So,
Yep.
I mean, obviously, this is not an entire film about that, but just keeping that in mind, just run me through how you guys shot it underwater and with a shark.
So yeah, for that sequence, we shot that all on in the ocean in Hawaii. So, they made this incredible um it's not called a boat. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but the sailing device. So they made that, the production made that, and then obviously it made it with a lot of amazing people involved so it could actually sail. The actors and Jason Momoa had sailing lessons. So they actually were sailing the um the boat, you could say. And that's actually him really in the ocean when he jumps underwater. So, we shot that pretty much for real, minus a shark. But, there was shooting on water is quite common in Hawaii. So we had Brian Kealana, who is like the water guy in Hawaii. He does all the water films. Him and his team supported us. Um, we had like a barge with a camera on a crane, and also jet skis, and then sometimes the camera operators would jump on the jet ski when they're sailing and just move around them, and then yeah, and that's really Jason underwater.
And was that
Yeah,
like, I'm assuming, so there was a sequence, there's a shot of him holding the shark's fin
yep,
under the water, which could be CGI. I don't know, but the one that was outside at the end when he's actually finished the hunting, and the fin.
yes.
So that was. I'm assuming that was like aesthetically
So we
built.
actually had a shark built.
Okay,
Uh,
that's
and
that's
so
good.
that we had a shark that was built. So the fin, is real, and obviously the shark at the end where he kind of like leans into it, and yeah, that's well, that's like our fake shark, and then yeah, then they supplemented the shark with CGI. We scouted real sharks, we filmed real sharks underwater, but Apple or the production said we weren't allowed to actually have actors in there. So, yeah, yeah. Because yeah, sharks actually aren't. Yeah, if you know how to film with them,
Yeah,
and like
they're
people
not
speak
that
sharks,
dangerous.
like
Yeah.
yeah, and like Brian Keelani, he had this device where it's like a motorized pod that you can kind of hold on to, and you can dive underwater and then kind of move around underwater with it. And we did that, we tested that, and it was like quite a lot of fun. But he designed one where he had a rope attached to him, and that's why when you see Jason being pulled by the shark, it looks quite real. Is because he's actually being pulled underwater. They just took out the pod and put in a shark. So, like, yeah, it was all underwater, and yeah, it was obviously quite difficult to shoot.
Yeah.
Water, the elements, the boat's constantly moving, and we're always trying to like align everything for the sun. But yeah, with the crew of some really, really talented and very experienced people, we managed to get it done.
Superman. That's really cool. Let's go back into your career. What was the moment, if you recall, that became the genesis of who you are today? Was it a specific film? Was it a shot? Completely accidental?
Um, I mean, Blue Bayou was like my first real film, and that was with Justin. We shot that on 16 mil. Before that, I did a few like super small films. And even before that, it was just like, music videos, commercials. But yeah, I would say Blue Bayou is the first time where it's, Justin before that, he had done two films that were smaller films that both went to Sundance. The script was about something very relevant in the United States. It was the first time I'd been a part of something where me being of an Asian background had a lot of influence in what the story was and how we approached certain things in that film. And that was yeah, it was the first kind of proper film where, like I said, it was about something, so we knew the importance of
Sure.
what we're telling, and obviously our own life experiences. Like I'm from a Taiwanese background, but I grew up in Australia. The film Blue Bay is about a Korean American who was adopted when he was young, so he kind of grew up in the South in the United States in New Orleans. So there's a lot of like previous experience in life that's kind of similar to that we utilize
Sure.
in the film into that utilize in our filmmaking. So I guess yeah, that's the first time where we did that film, and then that film did well, went to Cannes. So it was obviously a dream to do that, do something of a film of that.
Sure.
Um,
That's awesome. But I was going to ask what I was trying to ask you, like the root of everything. Like, were you a kid when you
oh,
watched?
sorry, my
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah, it's okay.
I mean, I grew up watching, Spielberg films, Scorsese, and then I would venture off into like Wong Kar-wai and John Woo films, and then,
But when did you realize that cinematography is what you want to do? Do you remember that
know,
moment?
I was a big Jackie Chan fan, and
Mm,
watching the way he like, obviously, when you keep watching his action films, and obviously the fight scenes and everything, but then, when you start to study it, the choreography of the fighting with the camera and how it's blocked and how they capture the movement and when they cut, I kind of like started paying attention to that.
mm-hmm.
Um,
And this is
Yeah,
the
so I guess like
90s Jackie Chan or 80 like when
yeah,
did
like
you
old school Jackie Chan, like Police Story
yeah.
one and two, and um, because yeah, you start seeing like some behind the scenes stuff, and you're like, oh wow, okay, like it's all quite designed. And I remember paying attention to like, yeah, how the shots kind of evolve from one to the next, and I guess
Yes.
I was the lead of certain things for sure. And even now, I'm like referencing Jackie Chan and John Woo, even in this series.
I felt that for a little bit when in some of the shots in episode one. I think I've kind of felt like a little bit of face off in some. I mean, there's
Oh yeah.
they're completely different films. Just like that sequence of maybe I'm looking into it too much. Where now I'm terrible with the characters' names. So where the king he's trying to convince the protagonist that you should
Oh
join the
yeah.
fight, and he takes him into that sort of like the light hitting
Oh
like
yep.
a so that entire thing, the way that took place, I don't know if it reminded me of Face Off or Broken Arrow. There were certain sequences in there
Interesting.
that
Oh
that that,
yeah.
that kind of made me feel like that. Yeah, absolutely. So
Oh,
you
interesting.
you hit the nail on the head.
No,
At
that's kind of
least when you
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like especially John Woo, like the way he does his action scenes, how he mixes slow motion with normal speed, and it got, like it's just so like poetic for, something that's
Yeah.
quite, and then I know definitely the battle stuff we utilize that, but also, even like, yeah, moments like that, what you just mentioned.
Yeah, and that's since I brought that sequence up, the light hitting, um,
Yep.
that talk to me how that was composed because that was my favorite in the entire episode. Just that, not just in terms of
Wait,
lighting, but also in terms of the emotion and the moment. And I think it was like
really?
a pivotal moment in the entire episode for his
Oh,
he shifted, right? Like that pretty much
yeah,
convinced him, like the prophecy and
yeah,
all that.
yeah, yeah. Where he presents him with the hut and his
Yeah,
father's bones.
yeah.
That's interesting because like we had a light coming from the top, and then the production designer JF he designed it so we could, it's like a light could come through the top. So we always knew that we wanted this like shaft of light coming in and the feeling of it. But also, that's kind of interesting because, that's one of my favorite performances of Jason in that scene. And on that particular day, Justin was like, "Hey Matt, can you jump under the camera and uh, can you shoot the scene with Jason?" Because we didn't know how many take like it felt like he was already mentally kind of there, so we didn't want to stop and start, and we just wanted to keep him in that moment, and that's where we kind of went to handheld. Yeah, so that's something that yeah, Justin was like, "Hey Mike, can you jump onto the camera for this?" And then yeah, then we kind of just ran through the scene without cutting too much. So maybe
Yeah.
that's something that I felt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like Jason was like right there, and then he was, we're only going to get at really in that moment. So yeah, no, it's interesting you brought that one up.
No, I really admired that sequence in every which way. And just kind of random thought. I'm guessing you guys were there when the fire happened, right? Was it around the same time when the
Oh, we
production
weren't
was?
there when the fire happened. That was after us, but we were there before we shot the big battle scene on Big Island. Um, the day that we flew in to shoot that scene, uh, a volcano went off on the island, and all the locals thought it was a blessing from the from the gods in the land. And then it stopped when we finished the battle scene. And yeah, when we left
Interesting.
But I was like, like say what you want to say, I think Jason really feels it was quite profound that, yeah. So, when we first got there, they had to like, we were supposed to shoot and then the volcano went off. So they had to like stop production to just, check the air and check all this, we were on the other side of the island, but, it just gave us ti one extra day to prep this huge battle scene, which we spent 8 days shooting on a real lava field
This
by
is
the
the
ocean.
last episode, right? Episode
Yeah,
nine.
this is the final big battle
Yeah.
scene the season builds up to. Yeah, and
I,
that one's
I,
a big
yeah,
take.
no, that's really good to know. And I'm really curious. So do you have the entire episode one shot in a language that majority of the people in the crew did not speak, including you, I'm guessing, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Okay. So, especially from a cinematography standpoint, and I would say editing too, but I would say cinematography mainly because there's a lot of stuff happening and emotions are being derived. So, did you have like an English translation version of the script with you,
Yeah.
or your assistant? And how did you sort of maneuver that? How different was it from, obviously shooting something that's in English or your native language that you can understand? Um,
So that's a very good question. We knew that the first two episodes were all was going to be in Native Hawaiian. This is a language that they tried to suppress and they tried to force the Hawaiians not to use. So, this is the first time that language really has been heard in that on something of this scale. And obviously they had, a lot of cultural advisors and uh, language coaches for all the actors. And obviously I've read the script, so I knew what the scene was about. But to be honest, whenever I film anyway, in general, I never really have like headphones or the recording. So for me, I'm just looking at the images, and if I could feel what they're feeling, regardless of language, um, if I could feel that just from the images, then I feel like um, you can kind of get a sense of what's going on, if that makes sense.
no, it does, and I think it kind of it's kind of like watching a silent film essentially,
That's correct. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, when there's moments in any production when the director says, okay, you know what, the camera needs to shift at this beat, so at this dialogue, at this word, maybe this way or upwards or downwards, or
Yeah.
was
I
there,
guess
and
it's
was,
most. I guess
yeah,
that's mostly just how the actors and the energy are, and by their facial expressions and their body language. Sometimes a lot of films. It's not always about the dialogue as per se. It's like how much they're emoting
yeah,
the energy and like like I did this film called You Won't Be Alone, which I mentioned before, the one about the witches. That was all in Macedonian. So
mm,
I've had some kind of experience in that. And once again, it was coming from just like sensing and feeling how the actors are responding in that moment and what they're feeling is kind of like more what I tend to do, even if it's in English, you know. Yeah.
okay, no, that's it's interesting, right? Because uh, the reason I asked that question is because all of us, I shouldn't say all of us, but majority of us in the West are grown up with watching films in English. And
Sure.
there's always this expectation to have everything in English, but at the
Yep.
same time, it's good to see the native languages because like my background, like if I'm watching a film from my background and if I see that in
Right.
English, in my head I'll be like, they don't speak English like that like all the time over there, so why are they in English? Obviously, it's catering to the West,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. 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 Of course. Of course. And then like obviously it is a big gamble for Apple and for us to do it the first two episodes and because a lot of people don't want to read subtitles or like but I think it was important for us to um
Stick to your
uh
guns.
yeah, because I think it means a lot to a lot of people and it obviously means a lot to to keep this language alive and for people to hear how beautiful it is. Once again, that comes down to the responsibility part that we all felt. And, the series does progress into a little bit more English when
Yeah.
you watch it. Because obviously, the settlers come and then
Yeah,
they teach Hawaiians English. So it's a mixture towards the end of the series. But for the first two episodes, yeah, I think it was,
got it. Um, sorry, what is one thing? So it's kind of like a two-part question. What is
yep.
one thing that you learned about the culture that you did not know before? But what was the one thing that you learned about yourself because of the culture?
Ah, that's a really great question. I didn't know much about Hawaii before this. I've never been to Hawaii before this. The closest thing I might have seen is like a little bit of like Maori culture in New Zealand.
Mm.
Uh, so coming into it, and having seen films that are about, other cultures is, especially like, watching Jack Chan films, John Woo films back in, like Um, or like that Mel Gibson film. Uh,
Braveheart?
no, no,
Oh, the
Apocalypto.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So,
Yeah,
like seeing that world, I'm like, oh wow, that's something that, and that was both of those films were, references for us. Um, but yeah, coming into this, like as soon as we landed, like we're obviously in for quite a lot of like just asking questions with the cultural advisors and then seeing how important this is for their history and what I learned from them. I mean, there's so many things, but
but something that taught you about yourself that you didn't know before. I know it's a very kind of like
so
a
yeah,
big
with the
question.
Hawaiians, I guess it's just like their connection to the land and the water, and like Brian Keelana, who's a waterman, like the way he speaks about water and how they're connected. Like I'm like, oh, I've never thought of that before in that kind of way. And I guess for myself, from what I learned, maybe it's like an extension of that is like being like, I mean, purely on like purely on like a connection, I guess, to like, when we're filming, like we're shooting in on the ocean or we're shooting in full sun or rain or so like a lot of our filming, our days or our constant like shooting stuff is always dictated by the environment and the weather and what is provide like what is like in front of us at that particular moment and that changes throughout the whole day. So it's really embracing all like the environmental what's kind of like present, and then even in New Zealand, like sometimes we'll shoot out on a cliff at night and it's like completely fogged out, but it looks stunning. So we're just like utilizing what's kind of given to us by, the gods or the weather or so it's like really embracing what, because we can't control that. So we just have to you work with it and adapt to it and to be honest, like really utilize it and embrace it. So I guess that's probably something that I learned just
Sure,
because, like for them, like if it rains, it means something to them, like, if a volcano explodes, it means something to them. So like it's all like just like really embracing all those. yeah, things that happen.
Nice, nice. I know only two episodes have come out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think the third one comes out on Friday.
Yep.
Talking about, you can talk about the first one or you can talk about the second one. I haven't seen the second one, but since it's online, I'm open for you to talk about it.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging sequence that you did in the first two episodes that really made you like, sometimes when you're doing some scenes, it's kind of like second nature, like shorthand, you know how to do this,
Oh,
but then something always comes out of the either even if you knew before or something happened on the set, like
yep.
rain or volcano, like something that was really challenging and how you dealt with it on spot.
So the first two, like the water, the scene on the water that we mentioned before, that was obviously, like I haven't really shot on water before. Justin hadn't really shot on water before, so we did a lot of research into that and just, seeing like how do we move the camera and how do, how do we work within those elements. But obviously, we had a lot of support there when we're, coming down to it. But we shot a lot of tests and we went out with the boats and all that kind of stuff. Uh, and that particular day was like full sun, so we really had to like work with the sun, and the direction is very important when you're shooting with when the sun's out. And that was also the same with the battle scene. Um, Once again, like it's like the sun is harsh, so we really have to work within that, especially like for a battle scene, which is obviously quite big in scale. And having like multiple cameras and stuff like that. So that was like both of them were very, very challenging because it's such a big group of people. If it's like one or two people, then you kind of like it's a
Sure.
lot easier. Or like a small group of people. But because it's a battle scene, it's like a huge, 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 thing. So, we're thinking of like, all right, it's full sun. How do we add layers and texture to this? So a lot of it's like smoke and flame bars and shooting through flame bars. So you get the haze.
Makes
And
sense.
yeah, and then there's a moment in that battle scene
This is
where
the
I was,
episode one, right? You're talking
yeah,
about.
episode one. There's one shot in that where I remember shooting it. We had this phantom camera, which is like you can shoot super slow
Mm-hmm.
motion.
Yep, yep.
So we had that on top of our main camera. So it was like maybe our fifth camera. So I was operating that on like a zoom lens, and then everything's in normal speed, but it was like we're shooting at like maybe like 600 frames or something like that. And there's this one shot in the battle scene where we shot something, and then it wasn't until like the way Justin cut it in the edit, I was like, whoa, this is really stunning how they've used that. And it's not like a typical shot in a battle scene. It's like you barely even see Jason Momoa. It's like it's through like a lot of like heat haze. But like the music kind of stops at that particular point, and you just see him like it's like a silhouette of him walking in the distance with all this like foreground action and this heat haze, and we hold it for like you know quite a little bit. But I remember seeing that in the edit, and I was like, whoa, that's like it just takes this whole thing into like this other kind of like realm, like it's kind of a little bit surreal, a little bit abstract, but yeah, the way Justin put it in there is like one of my favorite moments, like seeing it all come together because it's not
I,
really expected, like
yeah.
there's just something about it.
I gotta, excuse me, I gotta rewatch that. I may have seen it, but now it's my memory's not
For
registering. Um, you talked about cameras, so you said you used five cameras, one being Phantom at 600 frames per second, or
the battle scene, yeah.
what did you guys use Venice or
No, it was
Alexis?
a mixture between the Alexa Mini LF and Red Raptor.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a
nice.
mixture between those two. The rest of most from episode three onwards, it's mostly on the Red Raptor. Jason has a really good relationship with them. So yeah.
Fair enough. And we're talking about pretty much, for at least for the first episode, everything is outdoor. Fair thing to
Yes.
say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, more 99%. So
Yeah.
in terms of lighting, right? So you
Yep.
have so much daylight. You have everything around you. It's like a vast open space, except some shots when they're about
Yep.
to dine. How much in the daylight scenes, not the night scenes, or maybe even the night scenes, how much lighting you actually used versus using the actual natural light?
So most of the exteriors, just the way. So yeah, scouting locations is a big part, and then finding the path to the sun is a big part. And Justin, Jason, and Brian, the directors, they knew a lot about direction of the sun. So generally, we try to shoot towards it. So the sun's backlighting or side lighting our actors. If it's front lighting, it's generally not that flattering, or so backlight always gives you like a lot of depth. So we would kind of like know what the sun path is doing at any location, and we'll design our scenes within the day to fit within which direction we want to shoot.
Mm,
So, throughout the day, we'd shoot towards the sun and it would gradually kind of shift around and move around. If it's cloudy, then we can kind of shoot whichever direction. But to be honest, a lot of the time it's day, it was sun and clouds. So we're just navigating that constantly. And, the camera is constantly like it's moving around quite a bit. So we do see quite a lot of the space, like circling around.
which is something I liked.
Yeah, and like we worked, the choreography of the camera with the blocking. So we did quite a lot of that because we're seeing so much of the space. You can't really have too many stands and all that kind of stuff. We had for a few of the forest locations, we did have cranes with big lights on them for sun if we needed it, if it was cloudy. So sometimes we would have to use that. If the scene particularly we wanted like shafts of light or sun, but otherwise, yeah, a lot of it's like planned beforehand, and we will just adjust as we arrive on the day. If it's like looking at clouds or sun, or sometimes we have to wait for clouds, sometimes we'll wait for sun, but generally we didn't have too long to wait. So
Yeah.
sometimes if we could, we might put up some silk and just strap it onto trees and stuff. But to be honest, a lot of the time that wasn't like big enough for us to cover.
Mm,
Um, and at night, our main source of light is firelight. But then when you shoot with fire and flames, if it's in shot, the flame's bright. So we needed quite a lot of lighting for the surrounding areas. So there's moonlight, and then they're always on, big cranes and cherry
mm,
pick. And we had like flame bars or more light off camera to help enhance the firelight. So for the night scenes, there's actually quite a lot of huge lights that we've kind of like, it's not, I think we've found a good balance, like to see kind of in the distance, but not too
sure.
bright as well. Um, yeah, so our nighttime stuff was like quite extensive when it comes to lighting. And as the series progresses, then it goes into more stage stuff, more set stuff.
Because the story
For
probably
yeah,
demanded
one
it,
and
right?
two, yeah, one and two, you're right. Mostly it's like quite natural because we kind of want to set that tone. But then as the series progresses, we definitely have more,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, stages and sets and bigger kind of night scenes and
nice. I wanted to ask you one more thing before we sort of kind of go into the concluding stuff. What
Hmm.
was, and what was one thing, maybe there were many, but then something that you can remember. And no matter how experienced anybody is, even if you're Steven Spielberg, I mean, even he says, like when he comes on the set for the first day or first few days of the film that he's about to direct, there's always this
Yep.
fear in him. Like, how is this
Yep.
gonna go? Um, do you remember a few moments where like, this is like a really big production, or were you maybe how am I going to attack? Anything that sort of that evokes that emotion of fear, and how is this going to work out?
Pretty much every day.
That's what I
Um,
thought.
Pretty much every single day was that. I find filmmaking very, very torturous because, you like, especially with Justin and Jason and Brian, like we have really high, uh, we want to, like, we set our standards really high for ourselves. Obviously with the responsibility of Hawaii and their culture, that adds to that. But for us, like, if we take on a project, like we want to try and push ourselves, try and, like really kind of push ourselves to the limit of what, is capable, given the time and resources that we have. And, of course, we had quite a lot of resources on this. So our level of standard jumps up even higher is because, like there's so many incredible filmmakers are involved in all different areas and production design and wardrobe and special effects and but we always want everything to be on screen. That's our biggest thing, is like it should be all on the screen and the work should kind of speak for itself.
Yeah.
So day on this was just like torturous because you're dealing with stuff that you can't control, like the weather, but you're constantly like we just constantly adjusting, and we had to trust in our crew to be able to like pivot and trust that we're giving the cast the time that they need as well to perform. um and yeah, I think that's like when it all kind of starts to come together in a way that the actors and the camera and then uh the wardrobe and like everything kind of becomes cohesive. I think is kind of like what you kind of strive for. So yeah, every day was like painful and torturous. uh and like yeah, the all the battles are like stuff in the water, even like the small dramatic scenes, like you want them to feel genuine and real. And um and then yeah, the big battle scene, like that was like the toughest thing I've ever been a part of. It's like 8 days on a lava field, which is like if you've been in a real lava field, like it's like walking on the moon. Like you put your hand on the ground and it like you'll get cut. It's like it's so hard to walk on that thing, let alone shoot a battle scene. So figuring that out, we needed every single person to be a part of that. We had like 5 units on that, and the way the scene is designed and written is it starts off during the day and it goes in a sunset and then into night, and there's
Oh
like
wow.
lava. So like just planning and piecing that together for yeah, this whole battle scene with all the different characters, all the characters are in that scene, and like piecing all that and trying to get it done within 8 days, which is not a lot of
Not
days
enough time. No,
like
it's not.
that
It's
size. So
not.
that was something that was very nerve-wracking for us. And everyone, I saw so many crew like at the end of the day, like exhausted or
Yeah. I
crying or
I I would let you I would let you hold off on that because I'd love to have you on again for the last episode and we can talk
oh, of
again.
course, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, once
Yeah.
you see that episode, I
Yeah.
think
It puts more perspective for audience and even for myself,
I
right?
think like the reviews that come out, like they reviewed all nine, so they do talk about it. Like we had, like I said, we had 5 units. Jason got Justin and Brian all to direct certain segments we were kind of shooting roughly at the same time, then we all come together. So it's like a lot of like people, like our first
Yeah.
AD, this guy Casey Colwell, who's like a veteran first AD. He's the best I've ever worked with. But he's worked on films with like Tom Cruise and Sean Connery and Jack Nicholson, and like he's done some big stuff. But even he said to me when we were planning this thing, we had a plan which kind of sounded like it possibly could work. But even he said to me, he was like, Matt, I have no idea if this plan is going to work. I have no idea if we're going to succeed. But for him to say that is incredible, like he's like, yeah, but we're all down. And I think all of us knew, every single person in the crew knew
Yeah.
that everyone needed to like, it's like I'm talking like everyone, like makeup were probably there, like hair and makeup were probably there like 4 hours before because I had to like dress and do makeup for everyone and put tattoos on all the extras, which is like hundreds of extras. Stuntman, transport, we had obviously people constantly going and then they had to build roads for that. And then like yeah, there's so many people involved in that. Like the special effects, like running smoke everywhere and flame
Yeah.
bars and
But I think it's I mean, I know it's hard. It's not as easy as I'm saying. It's important to be on your toes no matter what you're doing, especially in the
absolutely.
film, because it that brings out the best in you, and sometimes it brings out the things that you never planned that work out to be better. I mean, some of the most amazing scenes in films or shots or whatever, they come out of the most bizarre places like improvisation,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So,
right. Yeah, that's right. Like especially with this film, there's so much that we had, ideas of how to approach different scenes, but to be honest, like we're dependent on a lot of things, like once again, the weather. So we're constantly shifting or we're constantly like, it's like there's no point looking down at a piece of paper looking at what a shot list or something like that.
sure.
Like you have to see and be present with what's happening in front of you, with what the actors are doing with each other, what the actors are doing with the space, what the weather, like so you have to be present, I think is the biggest word. So
What
you
was
can
sorry, go on.
yeah, so yeah, being present and just responding to what's in front of you as opposed to what was written
On the
like
paper. Yeah.
2 months before or.
What was the most, in terms of craft services? I ask because you're on an island.
Yeah.
What kind of food, was it like North American food that you were given, or was it also some Maui food or island, just natural?
A bit of both. Yeah, a bit of both. Like craft services, the food was actually really great. It was actually really great. Yeah, like I said, like in both Hawaii and New Zealand, they really had really great catering people and craft service people, and um,
Was there something new that you had that you never had before?
like poi is pretty big. It's
Mm.
like uh made from taro, I believe. Uh, and what else was there? What else was I love that was Hawaiian? Locomoco.
What's
That's
that?
what it's like a hamburger patty almost, but it's like with
Oh,
gravy.
see.
Sometimes you
Okay,
got
okay.
egg on it. It's like very heavy, but it's like quite tasty. Um, yeah, they had like these like pulled meats that were really great as well. Yeah, I can't remember the name of them, but yeah, no, there's some really great, yeah, really
Nice.
great.
And what's next for you if that's something that you're able to talk about down the road, or maybe you're already working on?
Um, so Justin and I, who directed the first two, with this film at the beginning of the year with no money. It was literally him, like he wanted to make a film with him and his daughter. His daughter's 7. So we shot that in LA with no money, no like barely any crew. There was maybe like sometimes it would be like 4 of us. The most I think we had was like 6 of us.
Documentary or narrative fiction?
No, it's a narrative. Yeah, so that's something that Justin and I we did, just like yeah, he wanted to make it with him and his daughter, and it's a beautiful film, beautiful script. But yeah, that's like the complete opposite in size of what this was. Um,
And is that finished production?
so we shot half of it, this year, and the second half we're gonna shoot in 4 years when his daughter's 11.
Ah,
Yeah, so it's like a father-daughter story. So yeah, we shot half of it now in like 2 months, and then yeah, in 4 years' time we'll go back and we'll do it again.
it's kind of like what was that, a film, Boys, A Boy's
Yeah,
Life?
yeah, yeah. Boyhood. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was over
Boyhood,
12
Boyhood.
years. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, we did
Amazing.
something like that. It was like completely different, achievable in scale and size, but still the ambition was there, and so it's good to go back to like real basics, like so
You
super
know
small.
what one of the things that in making films that I make and then I talk to people, on
Hmm.
the podcast, and obviously I see big movies and stuff. Growing up, you know, maybe now too, but maybe not that much. I always find, when you were telling me like um when the volcano erupted and you guys had to like test the air for a day, as safe as that
Yeah, yeah,
is,
yeah,
as it should be.
yeah, yeah,
An
yeah.
independent film is like, okay, who cares? Let's just go. Like, like
That's right.
that
That's
sense
right.
of that sense of
Yeah,
freedom,
yeah, that's right.
even if there's the financial
Yeah,
holdback on
yeah.
it, it's far more cooler than I think than just being tied down to
Oh,
all these
totally.
rules, corporate rules, and
Totally. And like to be honest, like we had that mentality shooting this thing. Like, like Justin and I, we're from, super indie films. Same with Jason and Brian. Like they were making films on their own, by themselves, like so we still kept that spirit. And, there are times where I look at Justin and we're like this huge set and all these people, but we're still doing it like handheld, or we're still doing it, like. And same with like the battle scene. Once again, like it's on a lava field, and we scouted it. Everyone's like, "Look, this is stunning, but it's way too difficult to shoot here. Like it's no one's done it on this scale. Like it's just so like it's dangerous. It's like But then Jason really wanted to shoot it on Hawaiian land. He wanted to, like he was like, no, we're shooting on this. And, to be honest, production were very afraid because of insurance reasons and unions and all this kind of stuff. And
yeah.
Jason was like, no, I want to shoot it on this. Like, let's, this is my plan. And when you hear the plan, you're like, oh, maybe it is achievable. And, like that battle scene does have that really kind of like indie kind of spirit to it. Um, yeah,
And I
it really
and
does.
I think that's sort of what you just said sums it up, is that it is so important, and I'm not trying to label things in a way that there are films out there, and I'm not going to put any names, that are just completely over the top, right?
Sure.
And I feel, I don't know
Yeah,
this
yeah.
for a fact, it's just my assessment, that sense of, a lot of sometimes directors or studios trying to go overboard just for the spectacle,
Yep.
and because they got the opportunity to spend the money and to make it look grand,
Oh,
but that sense of groundness,
yes.
I
Yeah.
think, which is something that I see in this first episode very much so, and you kind
Oh,
of
thank you.
attested to that, like how you guys have that indie background. And I think that is very important, which is why a lot of studios now are kind of, I mean, they're probably doing it more for the financial reasons. You get like an independent filmmaker
Sure.
who may cost less,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
that brings out some great films. Like, I'm just gonna say one little thing. Sam Mendes, I mean, he's a
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
director
Yeah.
now,
Yeah. Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
directed American Beauty,
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah.
his first film, and then the studio. I think that was the first time ever. I could be wrong. The studios started hiring directors who were not
You're right.
necessarily action oriented or big directors.
Yeah. 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 No, yeah, it is interesting. And, yeah, like Justin, like I said, we did Blue Bayou, and that did, like that's a very indie film. It's very,
I I gotta check that out actually.
and,
I have to say.
like, yeah, we did quite a lot on that film with not a lot of money either, like that was like maybe like a $5 million film, but we shot on 16 mil, and there's we're quite ambitious with that. So, we started doing that, and obviously that was extremely difficult for us to accomplish. But having gone for that experience and knowing what that takes for us, that was another big, like, that was another draw, is like to have something of this scale and the resources, but also for it to mean something to people.
Sure.
And like it was interesting, like one of the producers earlier on when I was having my meeting to do this, they were like, "Oh, you haven't done anything of this size." And he's not wrong, like he's not wrong. Like this is my first TV show. Before this, it was like before the film, like of course I'd worked with Justin, so that was obviously that made sense. But he was like, "Can you handle something of this size?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not my job to build the world, like that's like you have a lot of people to do that, like the production designer, like it's not my job to build the scale of it. It is my job to like bring the camera back, or like I'll move the camera and capture it within the frame of however big it is, but that's just pulling the camera back. And of course, there's maybe bigger spaces to light, but we have like the personnel to help me with that, like the gaffers, and like we tell them like, hey, this is what we're thinking, this is, the feeling that we want, this is the space that, like I want to be able to control from daylight, like, and then they're the ones who kind of like organize and set it up, and obviously they have a lot of people to help,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. I mean,
so.
you kind of reminded me of that line from The Matrix,
Oh yeah.
when Trinity says nobody's ever done that before, and Neo says that's why it's gonna work. You should have
Yeah,
said
yeah,
that to the
yeah,
producer.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's and look, to be honest, no one knows what they're doing is right or wrong in film. Like, you don't like it's just like whatever your instincts kind of go towards, yeah, for us, like we wanted to have it feel grounded and real, like you see a lot of these TV shows that are about historical epics and they all kind of can feel the same sometimes, like and obviously, we wanted to have our own stamp on certain things. And we were inspired by, some great filmmakers before us. Like Terrence Malick or Tarkovsky or, Michael Mann and, like
Actually, I'm
uh,
glad you mentioned Michael Mann. There's a lot of Michael Mann in that Last of Mohicans, and
yeah, of course.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Michael Mann's like, like one of my favorites, like yeah, so it was great to be able to test ourselves and see if we can work within this like scale, Um, and of course, we had ambitions to like take it beyond what was, you know, expected, I guess, like the worst thing for us is if people watch it go, oh, that was like underwhelming, like we would
yeah,
probably do that. So yeah, so we definitely learn a lot on that. And then, like I said, like we just did a film with no money. It was back to like basics,
yeah.
remind
No,
ourselves, like,
and it also keeps you grounded from a psychological standpoint that you don't, sometimes
yeah,
people kind of it gets to their head, and I think
yeah,
we were
yeah.
all capable of doing that.
That's
Um,
right. That's right. Yeah,
yeah, good
yeah,
stuff, man. No, it's
yeah.
been it's a fabulous series based on the episode one that I've seen. It's got me interested. I won't lie, when I saw the trailer, I wasn't too keen
Yeah,
on
yeah.
it,
Okay.
but you know, it's got me on. So I'm watching
Nice.
another series which is not really about the same time period, but a historical piece. It's about a year old. You know the Yellowstone spin-off 1923?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I've
Yeah,
heard of it. I haven't seen it myself.
which I will highly recommend, by the way.
Oh, okay, great.
Highly recommend. So it's good to watch these things, not just from a historical standpoint, but just from entertainment, but also like
Cool.
connecting with these characters that obviously,
Yep.
if you like the film or the series, you like it because of the characters and their
Of course.
relationships
Yeah.
with each other. So
Of course.
great
Yeah.
stuff. Looking forward to the rest of the episodes, and let's talk about this again. I think the last episode airs on September 19th.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe we can talk about it on
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
day, on that
Cool.
around the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be cool. Yeah.
Awesome,
Yeah.
man.
Hope you enjoy the rest of the series. Hopefully you still you still watch it. You like it.
I will. I will. I think I'm probably gonna wait for a couple of more episodes to come out. Watch
Sure.
3 or 4 in a go, and then the
Oh
last
yeah,
4 or 5
cool.
in a go. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, sweet.
Cool, man. Thanks for your time, buddy. And how do I pronounce
Thank
your
you,
last
man.
name?
Chuang.
Chuang. Just
Yeah.
want to make sure I pronounce it right when I do the introduction. Great, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate you
Pleasure
talking
talking
with
to
me.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Take
Take
care.
care.